Yo, what's good, everyone? xYoxa here. I know it has been a while. I'm back. I recently started playing again. Um, so today's video is going to be about game sense, what kind of game sense there are, and we're just going to dive deep into what game sense means, what includes in game sense, all these things about game sense. Because I feel as if game science is taken lightly, right? People just throw that word around thinking that it's like easy and it's or people just throw that around without knowing the true meaning of what game sense is, right? I think that's an issue. I think a lot of people don't know what they're talking about when it comes to game sense. So I'm gonna talk about what game sense is, where it's used, how kinds of game sense exist, and this will not only help you know what game sense is, it'll also improve your game sense because now you'll have knowledge of what kinds of game sense there are to even practice, right? When someone says your game sense is bad, that's not really giving you any information, right? What part of game sense is bad? Like what do you mean by your game sense is bad? Like in general, that just means that your decision making is bad, right? You're making poor decisions, right? Out of every decision you have, there's a best, there's a worst, there's somewhere in between. You don't make the best choice or the better choices, right? They generally, that's what when people say you have bad game sense. But let's now dive into what game sense is, right? Game sense is basically like sense, right? Having sense of common sense. Common sense is when you know what is expected of you or when everybody knows what to do in an expected situation, right? That's common sense. Now replace the common by game, having that sense of common in the game. So when you're supposed to solo trick between 5 to 10K, right? And then you start farming a little more meth and the split run. That's kind of like expected as game sense, right? Now we're gonna talk about different types of game sense because there's many game senses, right? Game sense is an umbrella term, so between those there's more and more. So let me open my doc here. So we're gonna go ahead and start off with we're gonna go ahead and start off with this. Okay. So one game sense that is really underrated, right? Really underrated. Um, yeah, really underrated. One of them is, let me just zoom out. Okay, I got it ready now. Okay, one of them game sense that is really important is team play game sense, right? See, people play differently when it comes with different party sizes, right? You're not supposed to play duo, quad, hexa, octa as if you're playing solo, obviously, like a multi-box, right? So when you play multi-box, you use a different game sense, right? You have two tabs open, seeing the entire like map almost, because you have two places of perspective. So multi-box gives you that multi-box game sense, right? That's really important because with multi-box, what's good about it is you have perspective of the teammate, which is you, but you have access to that perspective, meaning that teammate can communicate everything that he or she's seeing, right? In a normal duo situation, that's not going to happen, right? He has to either voice chat and tell you or type in chat, right? And it's not going to be effective, right? They're going to waste time telling you. It's not going to be instant. It's just not going to be communicated perfectly. But with multi-box, it is. Now, the disadvantage of multi-boxing is usually the mechanics aspect of it, right? There are some motherships that are complicated that cannot be done or is really hard to do for an average person as a multi-boxer, right? So it comes with disadvantages or advantages, but once a multi-boxer gets the mechanics part done, then they're like pretty much unstoppable. Like they are. better as multi-box as duo, which is a rare case. Rare case. So that's multi-box game sense, right? Dual game sense, you need to know how to communicate through your teammate. You need to know how to adapt game sense. I'm also going to reference other game senses while I'm talking about game senses. Then we're going to dive into it more and more and more. So quad game sense, right? With quad game sense or trio game sense, let's start with trio, right? Trio usually in like it's quad, but trio, right? Is when a multi-boxer is there and a duo is there. I'm gonna consider that a quad. We're not gonna separate the two for now. Quad game sense, right? That includes, for example, a strategy that a game sense involves when it comes to quad team play. You want to start from a corner, and let's say we start at top left, right? You're at the top left farming mass. You either go down to bottom left, right? Which one of your teammates expands and adventures out bottom. All right. It could do diagonal, but then you have access from both sides. You don't want to do that, right? I'll explain why you want to stay next to the walls. This is when it comes to Underworld specifically. You want to have that border game sense because of line game sense, right? You can bounce from line, you can bounce your line from there, or you can just do bounce splits. It doesn't have to be a line. Having a border is a big advantage. It's a good defensive game sense. um, it could also like you can quickly turn over the tables from defensive game sense to aggressive game sense by bouncing it because you're defending yourself at a corner when someone's approaching from that corner. It just bounces real quick. It can flip to aggressive the fastest than any other place. That's also called location game sense, locating where you are in the map. That's location game sense. We're gonna dive into those later, but let's talk about team play game sense. So with quad, you either want to go down or up. That's the same thing as symmetric, right? It's a square. You want to sweeping, right? Either to the right if you're coming from the left, going right. So you want to do this wave motion, right? This is duo one, this is duo two, this is the top left, bottom left. These two duos, they want to go to the right, clean everything. I'm talking about when they take over top four, right? They want to go to the right, to the left. If they're from the top, they want to go up and down like this. They want to sweep, right? That's what you want to do when it's in a quad. That's kind of like quad games. So that's just an example. There's more other things, of course, right? Hexa Gamesense, that's when there's three duos, right? Or multi-box, one of them, right? You want to, with that, you want to, for example, there's this triangle strategy, right? Where duo one, duo two, duo three. Duo three, who's leading is kind of like an arrow button, right? Who's leading the sweep? It's like kind of like a triangle, right? And wherever the point is, it's like the arrow, right? That's where the leader, the best duo, the multi-box or whatever, wants to be placed. That's Hexa game sense, right? Octa game sense, that's just like at that point it's not that much game sense difference between Hex and Octa, but since there's four people, each duo gets a corner and then sometimes they meet in the middle to like they have this kind of slow motion kind of closing in, closing opening out, right? That's Octa game sense. And then if you have like 10 people, right, then it's like a dice roll five. You know, you ever seen those? One, two, three, four, five. That's how you want to place. Every duo gets a corner. The best duo out of the 10 people who's doing a takeover top 10 wants to be in the middle, controlling everything. Because if a corner fails, let's say this corner fails, right? If this duo is the best duo that can clutch and save their teammates, they have to go through this middle duo. So that's just going to be a buff. So you want to have the best duo helping out this guy when he fails, or this guy, because he's going to be the closest in a case of emergency. Right. And then when it comes 20 man, right, that's just insane. But like, let's just to quickly go over it. One, two, three, one, two, three, two, one. That's that's 20 men. And after that, you usually it gets floated anyways. Then then you want to get into the flow game sense, right? Flow game sense is really important. I'm just gonna quickly go over that flow game sense. That's when you know when to how many teammates it depends on it, of course, right? That's when you know when to float, right? A lot of people I see this all the time. What it is in my takeovers or in other clients' takeover, they go for the float way too early, kills kills the server, ruins the takeover. Please don't get greedy. That's one tip over float game sense. With float game sense, you need to check out when to line, how to line, right? Sometimes people line too much, where like let's say they line 16 in a float. In a float, you want to do double. If you can do double or triple max, that's float game sense, right? If you do more than that, that's stretching it. Because then you have all those pieces that are gonna get mixed up and then someone's gonna leech and it's just gonna ruin things, right? You also want to know how to like complete the map and then start growing as a team. That's also another flow game sense, right? These are all the other game sense. Let's move on to the next one. Bait game sense, right? Bait game sense is when like this is really underrated, right? I feel like this is like one of the core game sense. It's like it's a little bit of a defensive game sense, right? Because you're trying to like you're not attacking anyone. You're staying at base, trying to trick someone into trying to be aggressive. So you're taking advantage of their aggressive game sense, their poor aggressive game sense. Someone has bad aggressive game sense that are just diagonaling everywhere, doubling everywhere, right, falling for every bait. That means they have a bad aggressive game sense. They don't know what to do with their aggression, right? That's bad game sense. And then defensive game sense, bait is under defensive game sense. So knowing how to bait, pretty good game sense. I look for that all the time when I'm testing people or whatever. Cornering game sense, that's when you corner an opponent. That's really important because that's like yeah, you get the point. Cornering game sense. It's in the name. You corner someone at a corner, and then they're not able to farm any mass while you keep them like prisoners there. That's what I call them, right? That's important. I'm gonna quickly go over this little short list, right? List. So hacks game sense. Hack splitting, right? Some people use different terms. I'm gonna use hack splitting because it's like hacking almost. See, normally when you're in one piece, you split, you get into two pieces, right? And then you split again, you get into four, and then eight. It doubles every time, right? Now, hack split is when you break that rule. When you break that rule, you can normally never get a piece into three in a in a situation where you can split unlimited, right? If you can split with unlimited, like there's no limit, right? Then you can split every time. All your pieces will double, right? 256, for example, right? You can double up to 256. One starts with 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256. Those are modes, right? Um, but the thing is, let's say you have 41 out of 44 pieces, right, in Underworld, and you're now trying to savage someone. If you double with their big piece, you can't get that. But if you triple, I mean, if you not triple, if you split like in a it, you split with three pieces, right? It's between double split and one split, right? Double split is two pieces. Double is four pieces. So in between, there's three pieces. If you can get a cell to split three pieces, then you get to do much. It opens up doors, right? Hack splitting is that knowing how to use that. It's really hard. It's not hard, but it's hard to completely understand, right? People think it's random. It's not random. It's depending on your mouse, right? Mouse placement matters, and your cell size also matters. So you're basically prioritizing which cell to split depending on which mouse is closest to the cell or which cell is the biggest. Usually the biggest cell is prioritized, and when this mouse is on top of each other, yeah. So when you're savaging using hack split, that's really important. That's Hax Gamesense. That's hack split game sense. That's one of my favorite game sense, right? I even do hack splitting like split runs, right? Where you split run wide and you always are in like you're not totally clean, but you're always in these like hack splitting moments. This is really important when being aggressive, but not when you're defensive because then you're it's risky. I don't of course recommend everyone to do it, but someone who can like sometimes do it for fun, whatever you can, right? Spawn game sense. Spawn game sense is when you are spawning in the map, right? So that's what spawning is. The game sense aspect of this is knowing where to spawn, right? So before I ever even spawn, I always spectate, see who's number one, see the dynamics of the game, right? I would spectate, see what's going on, making sure that if I spawn at the corner, I can farm mass or whatever, right? That's spawn game sense, right? It could also be like, let's say your teammate and you were just playing, right? And you just died. Some guy tried to kill you and you feed all to your teammate. When you were feeding all, you accidentally killed yourself. Now you need to spawn again to him, right? You have to go to him. Now a lot of people would either kill themselves all over time, like multiple times, right? Trying to get the perfect spawn, right? But then they would waste so much time because there's also knowing where spawn is really important too, right? It spawns usually wherever it's open, right? So if you're already at a corner or whatever, you're not gonna spawn there most likely, right? Or if the map is real full where you are, right? So these are little like details, but like main thing is if you are spawning decently near at first couple tries, you should commit. Like knowing where to commit to go to your teammate, that's really important. Knowing when to commit is really important when it comes to spawn. Moving on, skip game sense, or some people call it launching, right? That is important knowing how what kinds of launch to do, right? Like either diagonal launch when someone 16's in you and then you diagonal have the biggest piece go all the way to the furthest point of your diagonal to kill, right? That's like you're kind of launching yourself, like as if it's like a rocket or like a trampoline you're jumping on it, right? Or skipping, or whatever you want to call it. That's also a game sense. Knowing when to do that, that's game sense. Farming game sense, that's really, really important. Knowing how to farm when you're using solo tricks. All these things matter so much. A lot of people, I see this all the time when it comes to tests. People love to split run when it's like less than 10K and there's big people around. That's just not how you farm. That's so many mistakes. That's split run game sense. That's location or situation awareness game sense. That's like so many bad game sense right there, right? Not knowing how to farm game sense, not knowing how to solo trick game sense. That's also that's like really annoying, right? Farming game sense is really important. It's more of an umbrella term, but you get the point. And defensive game sense and aggressive game sense, right? I already talked about these two. These are more of the umbrella terms. So it's like game sense, defensive game sense, team play game sense, that go, it's more of the umbrella term. Defensive and aggressive game sense is when you are basically on defense or aggressive, right? Some people, right, are better at aggressive than defense, right? So that's why you'll see some people, I'm not going to give out names, you can fill out yourself, whoever you think is aggressive, usually in the game, right? They'll either go for clips or they'll always diagonal, they always will be aggressive. That's because, I mean, not necessarily their defense game sense is bad, but their aggressive game sense is much better than the people they're playing with usually, right? Knowing how to defense, that's defensive game sense, right? Knowing how to bait, that's under defensive game sense, right? Aggressive game sense is basically knowing when to time, like a time a diagonal, time a double split, time a mothership, right? Timing, mothership game sense. These aggressive game sense is important. All right, moving on. Location game sense, I already talked about it. You get the points where you locate yourself in the map. That's location game sense. Mothership game sense. See, a lot of people, when I do my test results on motherships, right? There's four sections I do. I do I do Solotrick, Gamesense, Split Run, Mothership, right? When I do Solotrick, I test what Solotricks you know, your knowledge on Solotricks, not where you Solotrick necessarily or when you Solotrick, because that's under game sense. That's decision making, right? Same with motherships. I test where you do the motherships, right? That's mothership game sense, so it's under game sense. Excuse me. But knowledge on motherships, right? Knowing what motherships there are, that's mothership category. right? Some people don't know what motherships even is, right? Right? So that's an issue. Knowing what mothership is important. Knowing where to do motherships is more important. So let's say it would be easier or faster to do double trick or double mothership, whatever you call it, right? But your teammate goes ahead and solo tricks. That's an issue. There are some cases where you first solo trick, your teammate solo tricks, then you feed. There are cases where you feed and then he solo tricks. Knowing these things, mothership games. All right, split round games. So now, like I said, there's a category called split round where I rank on people's split round knowledge, right? Knowing if they know how to forward, real time, whatever split round you want to do, right? That's the knowledge. Now, the game sense aspect of it is knowing where you're split running. Location game sense in a way. It's also important if you know what kind of split run there. I mean, this is really advanced, but when you know which split runs to use for different situations, that split run game sense. Because, for example, when I play, I don't just go forward when I'm 10K versus when I'm 100K. Or in a server that's alive, I don't even split run, if I'm being honest. If I'm in a dead server, I tend to do faster sprint runs, like real time, rather than safer sprint runs, right? Knowing which sprint run goes where and when, that's sprint run game sense. Moving on. Line game sense. This is one of my favorite game senses. So it's one of the newer game sense. Not new necessarily as in like discovery, but it's more like trendy. Not a lot of people do these kind of game senses. Now line game sense is knowing where and when to line, right? So I would never line in the middle of the map. I would always line either to the sides of the wall or the bottom or the top, right? I tend to go bottom or top. Here's why. This is line game sense, right? Line game sense is knowing how many times to split. I've seen so many people like 16 when they were supposed to triple or double when they were supposed to triple. You know what I mean? There's just so many mistakes when it comes to lines. People just lie. They don't understand the game sense behind it. Knowing how many to split, knowing when to time it, knowing where to position yourself, knowing how to get your pieces that like your multi-boxing, knowing how to get all your pieces in front. Right? Sometimes people line, but their middle piece gets all the mass. Like that. That's just all bad blind game sense, right? You want to avoid those. You want to avoid those by practicing line games. These are important. Very important. Oh, my nose is running today. Damn. All right. So, like, for example, like I was saying, I tend to do whenever I'm on the wall. Sometimes you'll rarely see me do solo trick lines in the middle of the map to like reach someone that I'm solo tricking, right? But not too much. I usually use the walls. Now, between the sides and the top and the bottom, I always go for the top or the bottom. Always. The reason, the reason is if you look at your screen right now, it's not a square. In Goda, it's not a square either. Your what's it called? Distance view? Yeah, distance view. That's what's called. Your distance view is not equal to the sides versus uh, to the top and the bottom. That's this. It's not the same ratio. If you noticed, I don't know if you noticed. Here's the reason. If you notice, you will most of the time get line either from the top or the bottom, and you'll be like, "Where did he come from? I didn't see him coming." The reason for that is you don't get to see what's up or down as much as you get to see what's on your left or right. So always, whenever you line, you always want to position yourself from the top or the bottom. Now, this is an aggressive game sense mistake too. I never push up or down when I see someone close to the wall because I know that they can see what I can't see, or not see, but they can take advantage of that I can't see because usually lines they're more effective when the opponent doesn't see it coming, obviously, right? That's really critical. Next up, solo trick games, as I already talked about, this is when to solo trick and everything like that. Which solos to do. Some people, for example, don't do inverse solo tricks or two-piece solo tricks. Uh, right? These are important. All right. Takeover Gamesense. Takeover Gamesense is knowing basically it's an umbrella term to a style of play, right? Not everyone plays this game to take over, mind you. Some people play to get clips, some people play for fun, whatever, right? Now, takeover game sense includes when to farm, when to attack, when to defend. All these things that I'm usually talking about is takeover game sense. Clipper game sense, on the other hand, is when like it involves timing, reversing game sense, all these other stuff, right? Clipping game sense. I have that because I was a clipper back in whatever, I forgot, but I did have that a lot. I trained that, so that's why you'll see me going for quote unquote risky things that I usually get that are not risky because I have that clipper game sense. Takeover game sense, you'll see them be a little more like scared or they'll do anything to keep their mask, right? Now, this is a little technical. Setting game sense, right? This might be stretching it, but like this is really try hard. Settings, right? Like knowing which settings to use is really important. Knowing which settings to use depending on the mode and what size, that's insane, right? I've seen tryhards. I don't do it anymore, where they change animation delay while they're playing, depending on the size and the situation they're in. Let's say they're about a mothership, they lower that all the way to zero, or whatever, right? So animation is so that it can be instantaneous. Or they're about to reverse. Let's say they're about to go time someone. They lower the animation delay. They click escape real quick, lower it, start click play again. Then look around, and then once someone moves, they're like the first ones to see it. They get it right. Now you can ask me, why am I not keeping my animation delay at the lowest all the time? One, it looks really ugly. That's number one, aesthetic, right? Second, it's also sometimes good to have enough time to react to things also because it feels faster, right? If you make the animation delay much slower, for example, in split run, you'll get to see much more if that makes sense. It's hard to explain. That matters. Camera delay. Camera delay is really important too. This is rare. I haven't seen a lot of people do this, but as you know, if you're in more pieces, right, you'll see more of the map. So let's say you solo trick, right? Before you solo trick, you were in one piece, so you didn't see the map that much. Once you solo trick, you have all these pieces that gets you to see all the map, right? Now, if you have camera delay and somebody cleans your pieces, you'll have more time to see the map after you solo trick. So if you like, let's say you solo trick, you put the camera delay all the way to the top, and then you get to see more of the map, even for a couple of seconds, like 5, 4 seconds, you'll get to see the map as if you have those pieces because there's a delay now. Now with that delay, how is this fair? How is this what so what? You're gonna ask me, okay, xYoxa, why does this matter? Here's why. You solo trick, you got cleaned, you have 5 seconds of delay now. The opponent knows you're clean. He thinks you can't see him now because you don't have that much. Guess what? You have the camera delay. He didn't put that into account. With that camera delay, you can see what's going on. He does something stupid, you take advantage of it, you reverse it, right? That's super, super, super technical. I don't think anyone's gonna use it. If they do, go ahead. Here's the secret, here's the answer, here's the reason. Right? Moving on. To that was setting game sense, but we're just gonna put that to an extra other section. We're not gonna put that under any category, right? Mode game sense is having different so for example, mode game sense is knowing how to play different modes, right? See, I played every mode decently. I would claim to play every mode differently and decently, right? I do main in Mega, right? I used to main in Garm or Aura, whatever it was. 256, right? I did play 128, self feed, instant merge, power, whatever, like 16, free for all, experimental. Every mode I have played it. Every region I played it. I played in Asia, I played in Europe, I played in NA. I have done it all, right? See, every single one of those require different types of game sets, right? That's called mode game sets. For example, in obviously in 256, it's the easy example, so I'm just gonna say in 256, you need to solo trick much more. You need to solo trick until much more. For example, I've seen a lot of people who are playing 16 or 64. They don't solo trick as 256 should solo trick, right? And then when it comes to 256, people do not know how to split run when they move from 256 to Mega, right? All these things are different mode game senses. Knowing when to do what in different modes is really important. That's mode game sense, okay? Leaderboard game sense. Okay, leaderboard game sense is another technical one that you don't really need to know, but I'm just gonna say it because it's important. Uh, Leaderboard game sense is when, let's say you're doing a 1v1, like let's say you're doing a war, like you need to have that target game sense, right? You need to know how to dominate and target, right, the opponent. That's like competition game sense, right? You knowing like you're not going against the server, you're going against that one particular person you're going against, right? That's target game sense. Now here's the leaderboard game sense comes in. Let's say you are now these are really like bad, cringe, whatever, like not cringe, but like what do you call it? Cheap. Yeah, cheap. I would say these are cheap moves, but there are moves that are illegal. Let's say you start at 30, you're playing a 10-minute round, it ends at 20. It could be a scrim either, right? Also. Let's say your opponent is swimming around 9 and 10. You're number 1 and 2, right? You can feed someone for the sabotage of the other person because it doesn't just go top 10. There's a bottom rank too. After 10, it comes the 11th place, then the 12th, then the 13th. It goes forever. Everybody is ranked. Not everybody is ranked. Just because the leaderboard doesn't show it doesn't mean it's not there. After 10, there's 11th, right? You just don't see it, right? In the leaderboard game sense, you could just feed you someone else, right? You're number 1 and 2. You feed someone, you become 4 and 5. But guess what? You just got an 11th and a 12th person to become on top 10. Guess what? That's going to push down that ninth and 10th or 8th place, whoever you're going against, to the 11th and 12th. Don't forget that's a ranking game sense. So this is really cheap. I don't recommend people doing it because it's not a skill. And in fact, my next video is going to be about coming up with new clan war rules because leaderboard game sense it's really abusable. It doesn't really show any skill. It's a stupid rule. I don't know why no one even like why did we agree for this? Right, mothership rules is dead. Nobody uses that. Like leaderboard rules, that's also bad. Like reset most mass or highest leaderboard. I don't like these rules. So I'm gonna next video talk about what the next official clan war rules are gonna be, or any verses or scripts. Okay, we're moving on now to virus game sense. Now this is really underrated, right? Virus game sense is knowing how to utilize your viruses strategically, right? Whether by pushing it towards the enemies or using them as like shields or navigating around to avoid getting splitted, right? Right? So these are all virus game sense. Knowing, for example, in free for all, the virus is stationary. So you can multiply it by just ejecting mass towards it, right? In free for all in Vendetta, to be specific, there is no virus density, so you can just like you don't have to care for that too much. There is no virus density. You can just make infinite amount of virus. So knowing how to use that for your advantage to farm, for example, if you eject mass virus, it'll give you more than you ejected. So that's a quick way to farm up to like 5k until DK comes like equal about like decaying game sense is also another thing. These are like years of different game senses and different games and modes and all these things that I'm trying to put onto the video. So if you have any questions at the end of the video or whatever, just comment down and I'll answer them. If I didn't go over a game sense and you want to ask more about it, whatever, you can just use the comment section to answer that. But I'm just gonna say whatever I can with at the shortest time, right? So virus game sense is really important, right? Knowing like so in Underworld or any other place, there is virus density. Now, why is this really important? Let's say there is 10, hypothetical, this is not usual. There's 10 viruses at a corner of the map. And you're like, you're big, you can just pop them and it won't affect you. No one's at that corner, right? And then let's say the virus density is 20, right? If you pop 10 of those, 10 more viruses are going to spawn somewhere around the map. Now, this is also cheap and toxic, right? But if you pop all those 10s at the same time, see, when you pop one by one, the virus has less chance of lucky spawning somebody, right? By popping them. You know how you're like, oh my god, a virus just spawned in me and I got popped. Like, this is ridiculous. What the hell is this game doing, right? That happens when the virus doesn't know where to go, right? The virus knows not to go into a cell. But let's say you pop multiple viruses at the same time. Now the game is always calculating which virus is going to go where every second or whatever, right? Once that is over, it gets like this kind of like a glitch, and they're like, okay, let's just put the virus wherever we can. It goes in a cell randomly, right? That's virus density game sense. Now that's really, really technical. Like you will never do this probably, but for your knowledge, I wanted to share, right? Anti-teaming game sets. This is another advanced game set. These are now we're not starting to move to like the real game sets. Like these are the things where I see and I'm like, okay, this guy knows how to play the game properly. He knows he has the experience, right? Anti-teaming game sets. See, maybe you've seen people take over where you would look at them and they're like, oh, they're not teaming, but they're not killing each other either. There's a duo or a quad that gets the top, there's a duo or a quad gets the bottom of the map, and nobody's killing each other, and everyone else is mad, like, yo, just fight it out, or are you guys teaming? Oh my god, they're Hexa or they're Octa or whatever, they're teaming, right? No, they're not teaming. What's going on there is both teams are using like they can't they're kind of like this like they're kind of locking each other, right? They're both equal mass. They both don't want to lose a mass. They're both really competitive. None of them are mothershipping. They're both bricking. Guess what? They're gonna act like teammates until one of them makes a mistake. Then they'll take over or whatever, right? But that's anti-teaming game sense. Okay, moving on to rush game sense. Knowing when to rush. Oh my god, this is really important. I swear to God, if I see another person rush, overcommit, over savage, and like just ruins the entire moment, I'm just gonna lose it. Like this irritates me the most when people don't know how to push. Like, oh my god, man, just get the piece and calm down. Don't like, for example, people who rush, right? Let's say you can like, let's say the teammate dies, he gets popped. That guy is gonna die. You know, you don't have a time restriction. People panic. They start solo tricking with pieces, solo tricks into the piece. You're like, yo, just calm down. Let me clean you. Take it easy. Then you can go and kill him. Like, there's no rush, right? Like, but the rush game sense is knowing when to rush, how to rush, right? Knowing when to be super aggressive. That's important. A lot of people don't take this seriously, or for example, people will rush and kill the opponent, but while they're doing that, they'll kill their teammates too. Now that's so like bad game sense. That's because then they get leeched. I can't spawn near them. The whole experience is gone. I don't want to play with you anymore. Like, can I leave the party? You know what I mean? Escape game sense. Escape game sense is also very important. It's kind of like the opposite of rush game sense because knowing when to escape, right? Knowing when to knowing when to stop being aggressive and being defensive. Like a lot of people have ego. Let's say they lost a mothership, but they still have mass, and the guy is like making some moves where it's kind of leechable, but it's not leechable. You start leeching, then they kill you. That's bad game sense. You're egoing. You have ego. You got humbled by getting mothershipped. Now you're trying to recover that ego by trying to like not escape, right? But knowing the best way to escape from dangerous situations, including when and how to split eject mass or use the environment to your advantage, that's important. That's escape game sense. I want to see more of this. A lot of people think take this as like being a bad player. No, that's not a bad player. Stop with that. Stop with that. Stop with that meaning. It's not a bad play. It's smart. I would like to see if I see someone escape at the right time, right, then I'm good. Split second decision is a game sense. Knowing how to make split second decisions under pressure, deciding whether to split, deciding how to reposition to avoid immediate threats. That's split second decision game sense. It's in the name. I think I'm not gonna spend too much time on this because it's been 40 minutes already. Damn. All right. I'm just gonna quickly go over this. As you all know, there's a comment section. You can comment. You can ask me more questions if you want to know more about these game senses. Right? Map awareness game sense, that's kind of like location game sense, but not entirely. Location game sense is more like knowing where to locate yourself. Map awareness game sense is, for example, like I was saying, if I'm pushing up or down and I see someone near a wall, I'm not pushing that because I have map awareness and I know what they're capable of with the line splits. So I'm gonna back off. I'm gonna wait until they come closer to me, or I'll attack someone else. Depends on the mass and everything, right? You get the point. Map awareness game sense is being constantly aware, constantly being aware of your surroundings, right? Including the location of the larger players, teammates, and the potential threats or opportunities on the map. That's map awareness game sense. Do not forget that. Now, this is also really important. I know I'm saying this is all important to everything, but these are all important. Let's be honest here. Come on now. Mass control game sense, right? Effectively managing your mass, knowing when to share your mass with your teammates or save it or use it aggressively. That's mass control game sense. For example, I was doing the scrim yesterday and we were going to lose the scrim. But guess what? What did I do? I killed my teammate, right? We were multi-quadding, right? I killed my teammate. I made sure he spawned at another corner of a map. I had the other scrim coming at me, right? Targeting me. So I took one for the team. I'm baiting them actually. They're not realizing this. This is game sense, right? I'm breaking hard and I'm making sure that they're decaying until they kill me. They ended up killing me, right? I knew it. But guess what? By the time they killed me, it took them 20 or not 20. What am I saying? Like 5 minutes. 5 minutes is enough time for my teammate to farm. That guy farmed. He farmed so much to the point where he's now as a multi-boxer bigger than the quad that was pushing me and killing me because they killed me when I was decaying and they were decayed. So they ended up having 50k when my teammates has 150k. And then I come in, he feeds me 50k, and I go in down and I take my revenge and I kill. That's pure mass control game sense. Knowing when to kill your teammates, knowing when to share it, knowing when to do all these things, knowing how to distribute, knowing who to distribute to. All these things are mass control game sense. This is really important. Do not forget that. Clutch game sense. Now, clutch game sense, that's rare. I don't see a lot of people have clutch game sense. I do sometimes do clutch game sense stuff. Clutch game sense stuff is basically like the ability to pull off like game-changing moves in critical situations, right? Such as reversing or like losing a position or making a comeback against the odds, basically. That's clutch game sense. Clutch, you know clutch, right? Clutch, and then the game sense, right? Positioning game sense. This is more of an umbrella term, like positioning how, what, you know what I mean? Basically, positioning, like understanding the importance of positioning in different situations and scenarios, such as staying near the center or the edges, right? Like what I was saying, like line, that's positioning game sense. You stay at the line, you bounce, boom, you get the line. That's positioning, right? Depending on your size, of course, and the current game state, right? So just this is more like it's not really telling you anything. It's not specific, but for those who understand it, you understand it. If you want to have other questions about it, ask it. Timing game sense. I already said mastering the timing of actions, such as when to split, when to team, or up or whatever. Timing game sense is not only like reversing game sense, but it's like also like, dude, oh my god, excuse me, man. I don't know, man. I have allergies. I think the weather is changing and everything. All right, timing games is not only like timing like your reverses, but it's also your actions, like knowing when to time certain splits in split run or mothership. Like you get the point. Knowing when to time the thing is timing games. This is important as well. Threat assessment game sense, quickly assessing which players or the team oppose is like like you get the point. It's in the name. Threat assessment game sense. All right. Was stealth game sense. Yeah, stealth game sense. This is really important. A lot of people want to advertise that they're playing the game and they're like I hate these players that like go near people that are big. You're doing these moves that are annoying them. You're leeching them. You're getting too close to their radar. Right? This is bad stealth games, and people don't know how to be stealth. Like stealth, like a sniper, for example. Like he's like staying still, not moving a lot, being calm. That's stealth games. So like knowing how to play stealthily, avoiding detection from large players, and positioning yourself for a surprise attack. That's stealth game sense, like snipers. Snipers, what is it? Double split game sense is just knowing what to double split. Merge timing game sense. Now this you're gonna be like, what the hell is Yhiita talking about? Merge timing game sense is like, okay, back in Jumbo, for example, Agarian, right? When the guy he was a master of merge timing games. He would know how to act like he isn't merging by putting his mouse like one to like he would flick the mouse so he wouldn't merge completely. But then he would merge when someone's hovering one of the pieces. That's like merge. This is more for 16 players or whatever. This is also forgotten. Now the game is really fast paced that people don't even take that much time and merge takes time, more time. In fact, this could be a good update for the game where the merge you if you want to make like nobody even waits for the game to merge no more, right? Like nobody is waiting for pieces to merge because the game is so fast paced. There's always things happening. So maybe it could be funner if the merge time was shorter. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas there, right? Chaining game sense. That's that's like the ability to chain together multiple actions, right? You trick, you double, you savage, you feed your team. Like knowing how to chain your multiple actions. That's chaining game sense, right? Some people they trick, they stop. But why don't you go further and savage? Like knowing how to do chaining games, or like they trick. They're like, oh, I just tricked, right? Okay, they take a deep breath. Oh, they see a double opportunity. Then they double, but they take too long, or whatever is going on in their mind. Bro, make sure you have the ability to have chaining games. That's important. Mind games game sense. This is also really important. This is personally one of my favorite. I love it. This is what makes me love the game. I love playing mind tricks on key players, right? I act like I am AFK, boom, I start reversing it. I act like I am bad or I'm lagging, I can reverse it. I act like I got popped on accident and stuff like that. I know what I was doing. I clean before you attack. Mind games. That's like playing mind games with your opponents, such as pretending to be weak than you are to manipulate your actions. That's mind tricks. However, there's a twist. There's an opposite for this too, right? If you pretend to be stronger than you are, you're also playing mind games. It's like, let's say I know I'm about to lose a fight, right? But I start playing like I'm the shit, right? I'm starting to play as if I'm about to kill the person. The guy who's bigger than me or about to kill me is like, yo, what's going on? This guy is like acting a little bit too stronger than he is, right? Then he will end up like changing his actions, right? And I ended up basically manipulating that, right? Basically pretending to be stronger than I am. So I'm pushing him off. I sometimes W people around me to make it seem like I'm teaming with them, and the guy who's pushing, they're like, okay, this guy is weird. I don't want to mess with that. All these mind game sense. These are mind games, mind game sense, right? So next up, we got Tricksplit Gamesense. That's obvious. You basically knowing how to trick split, where to trick split, how to do like mass pulls. Like these are different cannon splits, right? These are all different types of trick splits, knowing how to do all in each of them, and depending on like how to feed in all these line tricks, like you get the part. Split block. Split block is really important as well. See, a lot of people don't understand how powerful their splits are. Every split I do is by a decision, by a conscious decision. I know what my splits mean. Every split has a meaning. They affect the game. Not a split that I do doesn't mean anything, right? Every single one of them has a meaning, right? Let's say I split towards somewhere where I'm blocking a movement or an attack path for an opponent. That's preventing them from escaping or attacking effectively. It's kind of like positioning a little bit, but also like let's say someone's about to get their multi, like let's say, or someone's about to go to their door. I split block. No one can get to that from there. Let's say I'm pushing up, right? This guy's on the left. His teammate is dead, and his teammate who's small is trying to go down this way. I split block. He can't go through. That's split block game sense, right? You get the point. Deception game sense is basically pretending to be weak or creating false opportunities to lure opponents into making mistakes. I already told you. Overkill or savage, that's also a game sense, right? Like knowing how to savage overkill, you get the point. Um, Reverse game sense, counter trick game sense, whatever you want to call it. Feeding game sense, knowing how to feed. Some people don't feed line feeds or they don't do like diagonal feeds. Like, come on, bro, this is 2024. Knowing how to do these feeds are important, right? Some people spacebar feed that takes way too much time. We don't got time for that. Right. Crossfire game sense is also important. Knowing how to navigate yourself when you have different opponents from different places are coming at you, right? Let's say I have a threat from the left and the right and the top and the bottom. That's crossfire, right? Knowing how to deal with that is game sense, basically. If you can't even deal with it, but knowing if that happens, the best decision is to attack whichever is the weakest or whichever is the most probability wise easy to kill, right? Merge trap game sense. That's also what I was talking about with the merge timing, but it's like the next step. Next step after merge timing is merge trap. You get them, you trap them. It's like kind of like you get the point. Speed control games is oh my god, this is so important. Knowing when to slow down, knowing when to speed up, like manipulating your movements, speak to your control, your position relative to other players, right? This is important. Momentum game sense. This is really important too. Understanding how like if people don't get this, but there is a momentum of your cells after splitting, which is crucial for both chasing down opponents or avoiding danger, right? Knowing how to control this momentum is a game sense. Repositioning game sense is when you basically know you fucked up with the first reposition, right? So you end up repositioning yourself. Knowing how to reposition yourself is important. Let's say you position yourself accordingly to what the enemy was doing. He repositioned himself to a better position. Now you have to one up him and do another position, right? These are all game sense you're following, right? Prediction game sense is basically timing game sense, knowing when to. But it's not just reversing. It's like, okay, if I go this way, he's gonna go that way, so we can just go corner him that. Like this is all prediction game sense, right? Seeing the future, right? This is really important. Um, Split chain game sense, surround game sense, misdirection game sense. Basically, you're misdirecting your people. Environmental game sense. That's when you know like which use like which like using viruses or map edges to your advantage or players or whatever. That's just environmental game sense. You get the point. Like yeah, it's more an umbrella term. There are nuances between map awareness and environmental location, just to know. But yeah, this is just detail. I'm not gonna bore you with that. Balance game sense is utilizing the map's edges so you can bounce. There's a bounce that it creates momentum. Control game sense is knowing how to have control over maintaining your multiple cells after splitting or to avoid accidental stuff, right? That's control. You have control. A lot of people don't have control over their split run or their position. They just play automatic. They're just like they're like on autopilot. Like they don't actually do anything. Reaction game sense is have to like react real quick. Opponent psychology game sense, that's important as well. Knowing what psychology the opponent has, knowing how to read people. Like I personally read people like a book in real life and in the game, right? That's how opponent psychology, reading people like a book game sense. Edge play game sense, it's there's a nuance, but knowing how to use boundaries to your advantage while minimizing the risk of getting trapped. That's edge games. That's right. The mastering the art of playing along the edge of the map. That's I mastered that. I and it's like it's the best. I love it. Overfeeding games says I've seen a lot of people feed overfeed. Sometimes it can be good because if you like, let's say, overfeed someone, you can overwhelm the opponent and you can just like make them back off basically, right? Trap setup, that's also important, knowing how to field awareness, risk assessment, mass balance, double bait game sense where you double, someone doubles, you it's a mothership. Crowd control game sense, mass leverage game sense, right? Safe zone game sense, regrouping game sense. Okay, this is really important. A lot of people don't know when to regroup, right? If you're like having too many people separate when you're teaming, you need to regroup at some point, right? That's important. Regrouping game sense, patience game sense, knowing how to be patient, bro. A lot of people have ADHD playing this game. I swear to God, not knowing how to stand still is insane. Like, just stand still. Stop splitting. Let's say I'm waiting for something. This guy will split around, trying to come around the different. Like, just stand still. I know what I'm doing. Trust. Stay at that place. Be patient, right? Layered defense game sense is basically having multiple layers of defense, such as like walling, right? Let's say I'm playing quad, right? I know that someone big is looking at us. I'm gonna stand still a brick while my teammate on the back is gonna farm the mass that's on the other side. So this is the middle of the map. I'm breaking right here. The opponent is looking at me, but he can't attack because I'm breaking. And the dude behind me is farming all this mass. And then usually what ends up happening is he has good amount of mass. He lines, boom, gets the other guy. You know what I mean? This is like distraction games is knowing how to like distract basically. All right, you get the point. Mass recovery game sense. Let's say you lost mass, knowing how to recover that mass you lost real quick. That's mass recovery game sense. That's important. A lot of people just give up. Like, yo, stop giving up. You can low-key recover that mass if you play smart, right? Pressure game sense. Knowing how to stay on pressure, knowing how to um, basically apply consistent pressure on opponents as well, right? Not just having them pressure you and knowing how to act in pressure, but knowing how to pressure is important too. Forcing them to play defensively or make errors, right? I had a lot of people play panic, right? Not knowing how to panic, right? That's important. Having a panic, that's important, right? Isolation game sense is when you like leave from teammates and like just have more fun, like knowing how to basically regroup, come back. These are all game sense. Um, blind spot game sense. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier with the line game sense, right? There are blind spots in the game. Taking advantage of those blind spots is important, right? Launch surprise attacks, basically, right? It could be a skip, it could be a launch, it could be a line, it could be a double, it could be triple, it could be whatever. It's just there are blind spots. Knowing how to utilize those blind spots is really important, right? Mind control games is basically when you make it so that you're presenting them the opponent, right? Let's say like subtly like influencing or controlling the decisions of the opponents by presenting them with the choices that benefit you regardless of their decisions. So inevitable death, right? For example, in a game. That's basically where you're getting. Anchor game sense is basically what I was saying, like having some cells remain stationary, walling game sense, right? Making sure that a lot of people can attack or whatever. Um, right? Scouting game sense. This is really important. For example, I do solo tricks that are not necessary to kill someone, but to see the map. That's scouting game sense, like knowing what's going on, sending out smaller cells to, like, let's say you have a big piece, you have one little piece. If you move that one little piece, it moves faster. Knowing this too is really important, right? Big pieces move smaller than smaller pieces, right? So if you just move your mouse to the edge of the map, that small piece will go, let's say this is a big piece, this is a small piece. That small piece will go and open up new areas for you to see. So you'll move the camera to wherever that piece is going, right? So you'll get to scout more, right? Knowing these things, they're really important. They're really detailed. Not a lot of people know these things. I'm telling you, right? Mass hoarding game sense, basically floating game sense, knowing how to hold mass and knowing how to make big moves and basically float the game sense. That's important. Um, Mass transfer, that's important. Knowing how to feed basically, or like effectively transfer the mass between teammates or between your cells too, right? It's not just your teammates, but that maximizes every strategic play. Um, Pinning game sense is when you like, for example, sandwich someone, right? Boom, your duo is here, the other duo is here. There's someone who's here. You pin them, you get them sandwich. They're out. Counterplay, train exploitation, chain combos. I'm gonna skip some of these because these are a little too much. And it's been an hour. Holy, adaptive games. Oh my God, this is something I want to mention, right? A lot of people don't know how to adapt to other players, and this is just really annoying. Like I'm usually always the one who's adapting, right? Otherwise known as an assist character. I can be a leader too, though, right? I can lead people, but a lot of people can't be led. They only lead because of ego or whatever, right? That's adaptive game sense. Leading game sense is another thing, but like, let's be real here. A lot of people who try to lead are not even good leads, right? They just do it because they think that's the way to show off skill. No, being able to adapt to like, if you're worse than me and you know that in a way, and you adapt, that's fine. Like I'm not gonna be like, oh, look at this guy, he's following what I'm saying. Like if you lead, I'm gonna be more annoyed. I'm gonna most likely not play with you more. Like you know what I mean? Or otherwise, I mean, adapting doesn't mean I'm better. It just means that you're following me and we're going with one strategy, right? So for example, when I adapt to people who are leading but they're not better leaders, I'm leading because they can't adapt. Doesn't mean I'm a bad player. You know what I mean? You get the point. Um, Basically, adapting games as that. Domination game sense, it's in the name, knowing how to dominate. Choke point game sense. Okay, this is so important. Knowing what choke points, recognizing and utilizing choke points on the map to control player movement, trap opponents, or defend against large players. That's critical. Don't forget that. Coordination game sense, right? Mastering the coordination, multiple cells or teammates, ensuring synchronized actions for maximum effectiveness. That's important, man. That's important. A lot of people don't see these coordination games, right? Um, Target prioritization game sense. Now this game sense is something else. A lot of people don't prioritize the right things. Like let's say there's a guy who's farming. I am I'm 50K. I'm at a corner of a map. I see another guy who's spawning with his multi, right? He's building up. He's 5K. He's building up to 10, 20. I'm predicting he's going to make more mass, right? My teammate goes for the bots that have more mass. Fine. The bots have more mass. But why are you prioritizing? The bots can't do anything. They're easy to kill. Go kill the guy who's at 5K that is about to get to 10K before that guy gets to 10K or 20K while we're above him or easily kill him, right? Kill him. Then you can get the bots. That's target prioritization game sense, right? That's important. A lot of people don't know these things. Like this is important. Surprise factor game sense, distribution game sense, controller shifting game sense, exploitation weakness, environmental manipulation. Environmental manipulation game sense, that's really important. Manipulating the environment such as using viruses, obstacles, or map features to gain tactical advantages. That's top tier. If someone does environmental manipulation game sense, I'm just like, okay, this guy knows the game. He knows the game. Finally, someone I can respect, right? Sneak attack game sense, force split game sense, basically forcing people to split by pressuring them. Mass bluff game sense, I already told you, kind of. It's basically you're bluffing, you're acting. Acting game sense, that's really important. Don't forget that. Survival game sense, also important. Energy conservation, right? Also, this is like this is kind of getting beyond game itself, right? But managing your mental and physical energy throughout long sessions ensuring you remain focused and sharp when it matters the most. That's important, right? I'm not gonna be as focused as killing small people as I am focused doing motherships. So if you're like so focused on everything, that means you're not focused at a good point because you're not reserving your energy, right? But this is like out of the game, kind of, right? I mean, some people can argue, but like you get the point. Back Backstabbing Gamesense, I don't want to say this, but like that's the thing, right? Random teaming and then knowing when to backstab, that's like I don't do this. I hate people who do it. I don't like to do it. I have done it maybe, I don't know, but everyone has done it. But no, I don't recommend doing it, but it's a game sense, right? Knowing how to random team and knowing how to backstab. It's important. It's not important. Forget it. Uh, Zone prediction game sense. Yeah, zone prediction game sense is also important. It's a little detail, but like basically predicting where key events will happen on the map and positioning yourself in advance to capitalize on them. That's zone prediction game sense, right? Delayed action, such as attack or a split, to catch opponents off guard when they believe the moment has passed. That's delayed action, right? A lot of people think that, oh, like, let's say I act like I'm no longer attacking, but I'm also looking, and they're like, oh, okay, we survived them. Now let's move on. I actually am still looking. I basically do an action that was supposed to be done earlier. Delay action games us. Mm, proactive games. Yeah, quick split games. There's so many games. It's like I have a list that has like 300 game sessions, right? Shadowing games. Oh, shadowing games. So this is something I want to emphasize, right? Shadowing a large player or a team, staying close enough to take advantage of their mistakes without becoming a target yourself. That's shadowing, right? Let's say he moves up, I move up. He moves down, I move down. That's copying, basically shadowing games. You're like a shadow, right? That's where the name comes from. I think I think I'm yeah, I gotta go soon too, so I think this is good. I think this is good enough. Let me just go over this quick. Mass economic game sense is also important. Uh, like managing your mass resources, basically, right? Yeah, these are two now getting detailed, right? It's not gonna really make a difference in your knowledge. If you literally hit and run game, so this is a funny one, but basically, you know what a hit and run is? You do that basically where you quickly attack an opponent, take mass, and then come back, hit and run. You get the point. That's a good one. Um, yeah, I think I'm looking at it. Yeah, these are getting a little too much. Like, to be honest, if you just learn or apply or know all the things I just said, that's more than enough. These other things are just like for my own purposes. I like to get very detailed to like study the game basically in a way, right? Flicking games, that's knowing how to flick. Like, for example, in lines, you do a flick step, make it faster or whatever. Like, those are important. Uh, reactive splitting games and step scaling games. Reflex, reflex split games. So that's also like having a reflex, right? Some people like they don't have reflexes. Like I almost have a reflex of some things. Like something like happens. Like let's say if someone like taps you, you know how you would turn? Like you're like, oh, who just tapped me? Look around. That's kind of like that. Knowing how to do this, like, right? Like, let someone taps me right here, I'm gonna look this way. But also using that as an adventure to say, you know how some people, like your friends or whatever, they tap you here, but they're here, you like, you turn and they're like, oh, I got your neck. You can do that in the game too, right? Reflex game sense. Virus bait game sense, or it's kind of like the same thing. Cell micromanagement game sense, right? Knowing how to control at a micro level, that's important because it's different than the big, like size game sense. I'll just say that. Spatial awareness game sense. That's also really important. Um, like developing a sense of space, like understanding the distances between cells, opponents, and obstacles, and using this awareness to execute precise maneuvers. That's something. Yeah, yeah, I think I'm a yeah, I think I'm gonna call it a day. Yeah, okay, guys. Well, thank you for watching. Honestly, if you watched throughout this whole video, one, I'm proud of you. Second, just knowing this already made you aware of more things that may probably improve your skill by a rank or two. Honestly, bro. Not a lot of people know these things. These are ancient. I'm being honest, bro. I'm not even trying to hype it up. Like, not a lot of people even know what I'm talking about. Only a few people can understand what I'm saying, right? But if you want to understand more or anything like that, comment below. I know it's been a while since I haven't uploaded, so thanks for anyone who's still in tune with me. I do have the Discord for Digit. It'll be down below on the link. Yes, I came back. Yes, I remade Digit. Yes, to all those. If you have any other questions, feel to ask. I'm also gonna make a video on I'm gonna make a win compilation soon. I'm gonna make a like video on my clips soon. I've been getting a lot of those since I've been playing. Also, I'm gonna make more videos like these that are long and more going depth in like the game itself, right? I'm gonna next video I also want to talk about like how the current rules are not appropriate. I think they're not because like leaderboard rules, I'll just give you a quick summary of what I'm basically trying to do. Is like leaderboard rules that they're like really easy to manipulate. There's so many issues with it. There's so many times where someone who took over for the entire match loses at the very last second, and the guy who never took over gets on top 10, gets like 10K or 20K for a split second and wins. I've seen this so many times. Like that's not really showing who's better, is it? No, like so these are important. These are the things that you need to watch out for. I'm gonna make new rules that are like compromising all these things soon, soon, very soon. Anyways, thank you for watching again, and honestly, I'm impressed. To anyone, comment down below if you actually watched the entire video. Like uh, say pizza. Okay, that's the keyword. If you say pizza, I'll know that you watched the entire video. Be honest. That requires a lot of attention span. Not a lot of people have attention spans these days. So just know that I'm proud of you if you did watch the entire video. Other than that, it'll be all. And I'm out. Peace.